And ABC, Mid-North Coast. Well, time to talk drama and benchmarks. It's been described as an intense psychological drama involving two homeless people. One has been on the streets for years, the other just a matter of hours. Written and directed by Chris Dockrill, the play is coming to Players Theatre in Port Macquarie in November. I believe there's a performance in Kempsey as well, and it's going to the Adelaide Fringe Festival. So, Chris Dockrill, good morning to you first of all.
Good morning, Cam.
And I'll get you to introduce your cast as well.
Yes, we have with us John Hinks, who's playing the part of Ivan in Benchmarks, and Chris Phillips, who's playing the part of Luke.
John and Chris, welcome and thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much for having us.
It's my pleasure. Well, Chris, you've written a number of plays over the years and productions. We've talked Dr. Moron and his infamous Island many times over the years. Also with English and drama students and the work you've done there. How many plays have you written now?
Oh, probably 20-odd, I guess. Yeah, that includes 5 rock musicals as well.
Goodness me, Andrew Lloyd Webber ain't got nothing on you. So what is it about writing and creating drama that you enjoy?
Well, actually, I love stepping into these imaginary worlds, Cam. It's a funny process for me. I'll carry the world around in my mind and the people who inhabit it for weeks or months and then put it all on paper and then draft. And the funny thing is, though, my retentive memory is so poor. After 2 or 3 weeks, once I've done it, I move on. And, I'm still attached to that world, but yeah, it's a funny sort of writing process. And then I work with a couple of actors like these guys. This is a 90-minute play with 2 people in it. Their line learning is massive, the requirement for this play, and I'm just stunned by how quickly they pick up the lines.
Well, benchmarks. Let's take you've tackled the issue of homelessness. It is a growing concern, particularly in regional areas. Why did you decide to base your play, with that as a bit of a theme?
Well, it actually goes back some 33 years to the birth of my daughter. I know it's a funny sort of answer, but Michaela was born in St Margaret's Private Hospital in Sydney, and I just remember standing at the window of the room that we had for Lynn and Michaela, and looking out across the road and seeing this old man, a homeless man, on a park bench. And I just thought, how did you get there? Like, what paths in your life led you there? Doesn't anyone care for you? Or are you happy being there? And that idea has stuck with me all that time. I did actually write the first draft of Benchmarks about 20 years ago, and it was published in Cambridge University Press, or by Cambridge University Press. It was very well reviewed then, but I've never produced it. It's never been performed anywhere, so this is a world premiere. And I mean, like most of my plays, I step right away from didacticism. I do not like to be preached at when I go to the theatre, and I do not preach at my audiences. So this play really is about 2 homeless people, and my hope is that when they leave the theatre, they'll think like I did 33 years ago and think, what led those 2 people to be like that, to that situation?
Well, the characters, Chris and John, are 2 very different homelessness experiences. One a matter of hours, and one has been living on the streets for years. So it's an interesting combination of characters and storylines.
Yes, it is. And I thought the thing is, they're concentric circles. They have that one thing in common. For that night, they are both homeless that night. But they come to the meeting with such different backgrounds, different ages, different reasons for being there. I think they are probably better to tell you a little bit about themselves than I am. These guys are brilliant actors. They have completely owned the characters. As a director, I love that. I love it when they start to push back and say, no, I think this should happen. I love it because it does mean they own the play.
Well, it's always a challenge when you're confronting the playwright who's actually written the words, and you're advising them on what you think the character is and isn't. First of all, John, you're playing the older character.
Yes, that's right.
And just to describe what it's been like haunting Ivan, or the other way around.
Well, Ivan is a man who used to be a very important man in business, a CEO, but a very poor father. And he became very guilty about neglecting his family and has since left his family with all their possessions and the money and come to live on a park bench instead. And he is guilt-ridden. He has self-pity running out of his ears. And he doesn't want anyone near him. He's quite happy on his park bench, hurting himself, aching inside. And then when Luke comes along, he has somehow to get rid of him. And he can't do it physically. He's not too old and too weak. So he has to try and do it psychologically.
So, Luke, played by Chris Phillips. Chris, how are you tackling the issues of homelessness with this play?
My issues of homelessness are more focused for my character, Luke. He's more focused around the mental side of homelessness. He's got quite a bit of like psychosis and such in him. He keeps talking to himself, developing characters and stuff like that. Mainly, it's to try to scare or annoy or threaten Ivan, because Luke's quite a prick. He's very angry. He's a very angry teenager kind of person. And he's just come out and he's seen this old man. He wants to take it all out on him. But he develops these characters to scare Ivan. But it kind of seems like he kind of half believes these characters himself in some cases.
Yeah.
So I think you can't, in fact, Cameron, you can't actually believe any word we say.
No.
No one knows whether we're making things up or not. No one knows what the real truth is. The audience has to make up its own mind what the truth is.
Well, what have you learned about the issue of homelessness by doing the play and being these characters? What is there are things that you sort of picked up, you thought, gosh, it's being without a home.
You have to be very determined to be homeless. You have to have something in the background which makes you be homeless and accept the fact that you're going to be. Now, Luke may not remain homeless, we don't know. But Ivan hopes to remain homeless, and he feels that this is the best place for him because he has ruined everybody else's lives.
So it's almost like a cloak that he's wearing of guilt that says, I'm not fit for society.
Absolutely right. And sometimes his former psyches come through.
Gosh, what a complex character. And Chris, playing Luke, a young person, being homeless, I'd imagine, would be terrifying.
Well, in my character's mind, Luke's mind, it's not terrifying as much as it is a sense of freedom he gets, really. Because he's coming from a very dysfunctional family and not a very good upbringing, I guess. Well, compared to, like, other ones. He doesn't have it all bad. He's got a house, he's got a mother and a father, he's got a sister, and he gets food and such. But everyone else is just lesser than him. All his friends are just, they do the same old thing. His mother and father always fight. His sister's annoying. Everyone's lesser than him. So he's glad that he's out of there. So he can be his own person because there's, like, no one else is above him. So why does he need to hang around with all these other people?
Yeah,
or so he says.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I guess this is where the web, the intrigue is spun, because it's not clear cut. What's on the agendas of each character, and indeed, Chris, you've left it up to the audience to make that interpretation.
Definitely. When they leave, we hope that each person has his or her own interpretation of what they have seen and heard. And it will generate quite a deal of discussion. But again, underlying that is that other question is, well, how did they get there? And the other interesting thing is, say for Ivan, he doesn't want to be saved. And, I mean, there are lots of people out there on the street who feel safe within their isolation.
Well, I mean, I've interviewed a gentleman who's now a lecturer at SCU, Dr. Gregory Smith, who, he went and retreated into a forest and lived there.
That's right, I saw that.
And that was an Australian story. And that was his sanctuary, away from humanity to heal. And then when he was ready, he emerged back out of the forest again. Amazing story. And I guess for, and a story with a lot of spring in it, you'd have to say. Now, I believe that we are going to have a passage of the play. You're going to act it out for us.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Want to do the beginning or the two monologues?
Well, it depends on what Cam wants.
Short is good.
Short is good. Okay, so we do the beginning.
Beginning? Sure.
All right, I'll strap myself in.
When we say this is the beginning of the last section of the play, the play is divided into 6 parts, and two of those parts are quite long monologues. But so this comes from the beginning of the last section.
All right, and so...
No, beginning of the
beginning of the first section,
Beginning
sorry.
of the section.
I'm just the director, what do I know?
He just wrote it. He's
first
got
thing
no
we
idea.
had to decide was which order to do the accent.
They're listed by colours, by the way, not even numbers.
Listed by colours, not by numbers.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I wrote it, originally my plan was to
Don't
make it
envy.
an organic play, so that basically any troupe could put the sections together however they wanted to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Clever.
Yeah.
Well, look, and also slightly frightening performing it. Well, look, I wish you well, gents. You've got your work cut out for you. I'll let you get into character, and whenever you're ready, just hop into it.
This is when they when they first meet.
We think.
Oh, what? Get away! I didn't. It wasn't. I've returned all.
Hey, I'm sorry, old man. I didn't mean...
What? You young snake. Why, I should...
Shh. Don't make any...
Don't you? Is it me, you tiger, you snake, you young yellow-bellied tiger snake? Hissing.
What's it gonna be, old man? Hiss.
Hey, get away. Help me up. Don't you? Is it me? What?
Tiger or yellow-bellied? Hiss.
Did you think me dead, eh? Dead? Takes more than the poison in your lily-white veins.
Hiss.
Still full of your mother's milk? Overflowing with sickly innocence? Get away. Go on, get. Go change your nappy before you drown. You young yellow-bellied diapered tiger snake. Get off my bench.
Back on your belly, old man. Down on the grass. Let the worms take what's coming to them.
This will be repaid. It's not grass, it's carpet. It's my carpet, my bench, my judgment. I will vanquish you. Time will vanquish you. Send you back. Back with all the vanquished into your padded cells, under your electric opiates, back to the gentle, persistent brainwashing of your takeaway values. I am the only true survivor. I am the measure of the world's tragedy.
You're off the air.
Literally. Very good. Well done. John Hinks and Chris Phillips, they're playing the two characters in the play that benchmarks, and there's some interesting imagery coming up there that you've written, the takeaway society, and full of phlegm and full of bile, you'd have to say, John Hinks's character. But I mean, this is what you're exploring, isn't it?
Exactly. Yes. What was the venom, the passion, whatever that drove him to this point?
Fascinating.
Similarly with Luke, you see a real angst, a really dangerous angst come out in Luke in other sections of the play. As a young man, that's the only way I guess he can sort of express his anger and his frustration.
Yeah, well, I can see it ramping up and just the tension building. So you've got a few performances coming up at Benchmarks. Tell us where you'll be and what you'll be doing.
Oh, that's great. Yes, we are really fortunate that the Players Theatre have slotted us in between their crowded season for the 16th, 17th and 18th of November. The 16th and 17th are evening performances. The Sunday one is the matinee. But I was really hoping that we would have the world premiere of this play at the Players, and it's going to happen that way, simply because these two guys are long-time members of the Players Theatre. I think Chris said he's up to about his 10th show.
Oh, yes.
John, about his 110th show. So, Port Macquarie people know them. They've seen them. They've seen them in shows that are very, very different. And our pitch is Chris Phillips and John Hinks like you've never seen them before.
Yeah, I'm
so
kidding
there's that performance. The week after, we have a really special performance at the Bank Conference Centre. That's right next to Lou's Cafe. And it's a very exclusive dinner plus show for only 40 people, and we're already half sold out. So that's great. We then look to the further areas around Mid-North Coast. We haven't booked anything in yet, but we are booked into the Adelaide Fringe in February next year for a week of performances at a very trendy performance place called The Mill, which is an arts hub just off Rundle Street. So that was a coup to score that.
Chris, you'll be finally able to say, I've been through the mill. Certainly with this show. Sorry.
The standard's going down.
Terrible. I know. But this is one of Australia's premier sort of arts festivals, and to be able to take the show on the road, literally, and perform interstate is a real buzz, and I'd imagine you'd be very excited about that, and also performing a new work as well. So if you want to find out more about Benchmarks, no doubt you've got a web or something like that?
Web or the Facebook page. And if people want to buy tickets, they just go to Ticket Host and just search for shows that are on in New South Wales.
Also,
and
GoFundMe.
Yes, and we've got a crowdfunding site out there
to get to Adelaide.
Yeah, and we're going really well with that. It's fantastic, the generosity of people. So yeah.
Well, it's support live theatre and creation. That's what it's all about. Young actors and the more
mature.
Exactly. The more experienced and wise.
Yes,
so, look, I wish you all the very best. Looking forward to seeing it in November at Players. And thank you again for sharing just a little bit of a taste of homelessness and some of the issues in the upcoming drama Benchmarks. John Hinks.
Thank you, Cameron.
Chris Phillips.
Thank you, Cameron.
And Chris Dockrill, writer and director. Thanks,
Cam.